Welcome, my friends, to another YouTube version of the BJJ Brick podcast. I hope you enjoy the show, and if you do, please subscribe to the channel. So here we go.
Thank you for listening to the BJJ Brick podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to episode 198 of the BJJ Brick podcast. I'm Byron, and I've got my buddy Gary here. How you doing, Gary?
Byron, I'm doing great, and this is the best I've looked and sounded the entire 198 episodes.
The reason I did that is last week Byron stole the introduction from me, and so it was just to change it up a little bit. Actually, this is Gary, and that was Byron, but we have an awesome episode this week. It's our own episode where we don't have a guest on this week, episode 198, and we're going to talk about better habits for better BJJ. You know, what habits can we do each and every day to become better at jiu-jitsu? And that's our goal here, is to become better.
Yep. So basically, instead of our interview this week, we're going to be discussing these habits and really help you out, I hope, is the goal with the episode. Also, a way that something that's been helping us out to get this podcast out is our email list. And if you want to be on the email list, swing by the website. It is bjjbrick.com. That's pretty creative for the name of the podcast as well.
That is creative, Byron. We hired a marketing company to figure that one out.
we wasted all our money on that figuring out that name. And or swing by our Facebook page, facebook.com/ say it with me, Gary, BJJ Brick. And you can put your name and email address in there. And basically with that, every week you'll get the show notes. You'll get links to all the stuff we talked to the article of the week. You'll have the quote in your inbox. It's just a way also to get a reminder. Hey, the podcast is out. Check it out, because it's out, Gary.
Yeah, you don't want to miss it. Yeah, it's out, just like me. Byron, you're looking.
Gotcha.
Byron, thank you. I appreciate it. I really do think that you started this podcast just so you could make fun of me.
No, I'm saying you escape out of submissions all the time. He's like, Gary's out. He's in armbar. He's out. He's in a choke. He's out.
Yeah, I believe that.
That's what I'm talking about, Gary.
Yep, I'm out of a submission.
Yes.
And Byron's just leading me right down the trail into another submission. It'll be coming here shortly, so I just wait for it. It'll happen.
All right, Gary.
Yep. Hey, speaking of it'll happen, what will happen will be your first year in BJJ. We want your first year to be your best year. We do have a big dropout rate in the first year of jiu-jitsu, and our goal is to keep everybody training to grow jiu-jitsu around the world and just have a bunch of people training, smiling, having fun, and listening to the BJJ Brick podcast. So definitely check out our audiobook, Your First Year in BJJ. 2.5 hours of content of walking you through your first year. Kind of, one of the cool chapters is, how to pick the right gym. And I truly believe, that if you're in the right gym, you're going to have more fun. You're going to learn more, and you're going to stick with it. Sometimes where you're at, you don't have your option of, many gyms. You might only have one gym. But if you have one gym, still go to it, get some training in. But if you do have an option of gyms, there's a good chapter about, the best way to go and pick your gym. So definitely check it out. Your first year in BJJ, like I said, 2.5 hours of content, only $11.99. And the proceeds go to this show to keep this brick afloat.
There we go. With the audiobook, it's really not said so much. We don't really talk about it, but you also get me or us. If you actually are in your first year and you're having problems with something, send us an email and we'll be happy to try to help you out. And you get that also as just being a listener. bjjbrick@gmail.com is our email address. If you're in your first year, your fifth year, or any time, and you're like, man, this is frustrating, I'm thinking about quitting, or like this shouldn't be this hard, how can I make this more enjoyable or whatever, send us an email. And me and Gary will kick it around a little bit and try to help you out the best we can. You get that with the audiobook, but really you get that just by listening, and we're happy to help out any of our listeners.
So BJJ Brick gmail.com or hit us up on our Facebook page. That's one of our most enjoyable parts is, talking to the listeners and, answering questions. And we'll even be asking you questions too. So thank you guys for posing questions to us.
There you go. And also I'll also put Gary's phone number on the show notes if you want to give him a call directly at work.
Yeah, I'll definitely answer it.
Yeah. That's
here
a great
24/7.
idea. 24/7. It's great for the international calls that happen in the middle of the night.
Yep.
Gary, what is our quote this week?
Quote, we have a quote from the great Lou Holtz. He's an incredible football coach. And his quote, without self-discipline, success is impossible.
Period.
You actually put a comma. Oh, never mind. I thought... Wait.
No, it's funny because it literally ends with the word period and it also has a period after that. Yeah, kind of a weird way to end that quote, but yeah.
Yeah, well, you can see my self-discipline wasn't very good, and I didn't read through the whole... I didn't read the whole thing. I did a little shortcut and I missed something.
Well, we had a slight discussion last time about my misspelling of Bruce Lee's name, a typo, and this time I put a comma and then I capitalized the word period after that. I don't know what was wrong with me, and I've also capitalized several other words in that thing that don't actually deserve to be. And I'm just talking about the email that Gary and I send back and forth to prepare for the show. If you can believe it or not, the show is actually prepared in advance. So without self-discipline, success is impossible, period. Because there's a period after that.
Better. Well, quotations.
End quotate. But really, that is an important thing, that self-discipline aspect of someone's success. The ability to just kind of push yourself harder than you would like yourself to be pushed at times. And this will go to those, the case of the Mondays. You don't really feel like it. You're not motivated or excited to do something today, but you know that the right thing to do is whatever activity you're trying to avoid. And that discipline, having that, and that we all have that, we all could use that and exercise that discipline. It's there, so use it.
Yeah. Like Byron said, it's, finding a way to push yourself harder. Like I always try to find a way to push Byron harder, and it's normally when we're right next to a cliff. I like to push him harder and try to make him fall over the cliff.
Yeah, Gary's been trying to get me to go hiking or backpacking on this trail that we have near here. I'm a little suspicious that cliff is going to be... There are some cliffs on that trail there, Gary.
Well, the great thing is we live in Kansas, so there's not a lot of cliffs. So,
yeah, but...
You're only going to have to be... alert, not very often. Yeah,
it's the Elk River Trail that Gary is considering backpacking here, and there are cliffs because I've been over there, and I'm going to have to stay on the inside of that track.
Well, all you got to do is break fall, Byron.
That's true. It's just like a 50-foot drop.
Yeah, that's easy.
Break fall. Just if I break the fall, it'll be good.
Just break fall.
But yeah, I like the quote. It's about discipline. Yeah. It's about success. And it's about punctuation.
Yep. Speaking of discipline and success, is better habits for better BJJ. Basically, habits are go right in there with that self-discipline. And without that self-discipline and good habits, success in life or in BJJ is impossible.
Yeah, I think really habits make discipline easier. If you have a habit of getting up and eating a healthy breakfast or eating junk food, it takes the same amount of willpower to do both. It's just what you're going to do. And so if you could switch out a bad breakfast or a healthy breakfast, or maybe a delayed breakfast, or maybe your lunch habit's unhealthy. Every day at lunch you're at work and you just eat out of the vending machine or something like that. If you can make the habit a healthy thing, it's an automatic change without really much effort. As far as, oh man, I have to do this now. What's in your lunch? Here's what I'm going to have: an apple and a sandwich and a salad, or what, I don't know what it'll be. But or if you wait and you don't plan your lunch at all, you end up going out and you end up, spending maybe a lot more money than you anticipated, or eating something that's a lot greasier than you had hoped. And then it's when you're in that restaurant, you're looking at it like, man, I'm eating this again. It's the habit of going out versus the habit of preparing something in advance, much like this show, Carrie.
I thought you said we didn't prepare prepare the show very well, Byron.
It was poorly typed by me.
Okay.
Yes.
But at least you typed it, because that just shows you prepared. I did not prepare at all.
Yeah.
So,
usually Gary just sends me illustrations on a chalkboard.
I couldn't even get logged
a
on.
phone text.
You know you're in bad shape when you can't get logged on.
We are.
So,
that's
yeah.
true. We're good to go, though, Gary. And I think that's a nice transition from the quote talking about habits to actually our habits on the mat. And Gary, he sent me his habits, and I didn't really read them, and I didn't send Gary mine.
Oh,
so
thanks
I don't
a
know.
lot.
I don't know if we have any
Yeah.
crossover. I think it's gonna be fun just to kind of discuss these as they pop up, and we'll go
Yeah,
through
who
them.
cares if we have crossovers?
Crossover's
You know?
good.
Yeah, you need a crossover.
Crossover's sometimes good.
Yep, Allen Iverson has a good crossover.
There we go. But Gary, why don't you throw one up first, and if I have one that's the same or whatever, I'll cross it off my list, and then we'll go back and forth.
Well, Byron, I'm going to go with consistency. And I hope that was one I actually put down, because I don't have my list here.
I don't have a list either.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking of, just being consistent. I know we talk about this all the time, not quitting. I think a lot of times people expect, they're going to get good in jiu-jitsu fast. And that doesn't happen for the majority of the people. It definitely doesn't happen for me. So basically, you do need to show up for class, consistently, not for 3 months, take 3 months off, come back 3 months, take 3 months off. And even if you can only make it, once a week or maybe even twice a week, but if you just keep coming, you don't stop. You're kind of like that, what we were talking about, the wounded grappler earlier, it's not going to tell you anything's wrong, and they're just going to keep coming and coming and coming. And, it's those people that, are very consistent, show up all the time. That's a good habit to make yourself better at jiu-jitsu.
It is important to be consistent with anything that you want to be good at. And I think we're all listening to this show, or the both of us are talking about grappling right now because we want to get better at it. And consistency is a big key to anything like that. If you train Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Friday something that isn't really something like a birthday party or something like that pops up, you have to consider what you want to do. But if it's just you don't feel like it, stay with that schedule, stay with that consistency, make it work for you. And that'll be one habit, is if you just tell yourself, I'm not somebody who skips out on going to train. I'm not somebody that skips out on my morning jog or whatever you are trying to get yourself to do. Be consistent in that. I think that's a good one, Gary. I don't have that one on my list, but I think that is a great habit. And it's for me, I try to trick myself into telling myself that, I am somebody who gets up and goes for a jog. And I haven't been that person for a long time, but I've started to become that person again. And I'm trying to stay consistent with that. And I think it's really helping me out. Yeah.
And, we're talking about staying consistent. Byron's saying, hey, train Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If you got something coming up, you have to then make your decision. But, people talk about injuries. It's like, hey, how do I stay consistent, if I do get hurt? Hey, you may be off the mat for 3 months. Let's say you got a major knee injury. Consistency is still showing up and coming to practice. You may not come to 3 days a week, but you may come 2 days a week. But you're going to learn just from watching practice. Plus, you're going to be around the guys, which guys and gals, which is the fun part. In my opinion, I'm the social guy. I like to talk and visit with people. But you're going to learn even just watching. I know we're still talking about consistency. Let's say you're on vacation and you can find a gym to train at there, or if you can't find a gym, you can watch videos online. You can go to the hotel a gym if they have one. If they don't, you can do push-ups, sit-ups, shrimping in your room. That'd be great. Shrimp down the hallway in the hotel. But there's stuff you can do just to stay consistent and keep on top of your game.
Yeah, one time I ordered a shrimp salad, and by the time I got to my room, most of the shrimp had fallen out, actually. So I consider that shrimping in the hallway and a little bit in the elevator as well.
Yeah, like you always say, shrimping ain't easy.
It was not easy. That's true. It's better to eat that sitting down.
Yep. Byron, what do you got on your list?
Well, I'm talking about eating sitting down. The habit of eating healthy, and maybe the habit of paying attention to what you eat and how that affects you later on, because that's a good motivator for me to eat healthy. On Tuesdays, I like to go train in the evenings. If I eat a big old greasy cheeseburger, which sounds pretty good, on Tuesday afternoon, really like looking at how I grappled, and maybe some of that, it probably won't be my best night ever. And look at maybe some of my struggles and say, well, maybe it's because I ate a real heavy lunch. Or maybe if I ate a real healthy lunch and looking at how I performed, just using that, I think, is something that I've been able to kind of get the habit of at least eating healthy the days I want to go train, because it is going to affect me. It is going to help me my last round. It's going to matter. It may not matter so much my first round, but it will someday
It
or
may be
sometime.
your opponent.
Yeah, it may have been my opponent too, but like I feel a certain way when I roll, and either I feel really good or I don't. And if I don't, sometimes I think that is because I ate foods that didn't help me on the mat. It's literally fuel for your body, and we're using our bodies a ton in jiu-jitsu. And so just this, I put eating and then I put pay attention. So get in the habit of, like, after you're grappling, think about what you had today or last night if you grapple in the morning for food, and think about if it affected you. And then try sampling something that's maybe a little bit more healthy or beneficial for athletes, and see how that affects you. And you can't do it just one time, but if you get in that habit, you'll naturally change your diet. You won't be on a diet. You'll be eating healthier because it helps you on the mat. And it's well worth it to have a couple extra really good rounds than to have an unhealthy meal, and those last rounds are terrible for you.
Yep. I know you've always told me that, like, when you eat that greasy cheeseburger, you always say, I grapple, crapple. That's what you always tell me. And
I constantly say that.
Grapple, crapple. Yeah, you do say that a lot, but I mean, besides just what you eat too, check the times you eat. I mean, you don't want to eat a big meal right before you go.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, is it better to eat 3 hours before, or do you run out of energy if you eat 3 hours before? And so, take a second afterwards, like Byron was saying, think of the times you ate too, especially if you felt well or if you didn't feel well. And it's not just eating, it's hydration, especially if I try to drink a little bit more, and not alcohol. When I say drink more, water, I try to stay, more hydrated on days I am going to train. Nutrition is definitely a key point there. And something that goes along with nutrition, that is a good habit, is a notebook. And so you're now looking at me like, how the heck does a notebook go along with nutrition?
Yeah, Gary, how the heck does a notebook go along with nutrition?
Jeez, Byron, you don't need to yell at me.
I'm looking at you like that, and you read it out of my mind.
You just sent me a text in all caps. Come on, Byron. But that goes back to kind of like what we were just saying, after class, instead of just thinking about it, write down the times you eat, write down what you eat, and see how you perform that day. And like, I know you also use a notebook, Byron, for your injuries, and you kind of figured out, like, I know you try not to, you have trouble with triangles where people stack you and you always end up hurting your back, and you may not have figured it out as quick if you didn't always keep that injury notebook. It's something I never thought about, keeping an injury notebook, till, I've heard you bring it up on this show a couple times. So, you can use your notebook for injuries. You can use your notebook for nutrition. And, I think using a notebook is very important for, we've talked about it for seminars, but for just regular class. And I think that's one thing a lot of people don't do. And to be honest, I don't do it all the time. I skip it numerous times, but I do notice when I do write down, anything. It really doesn't matter what you write down as long as it's, going to help you. Sometimes people write down, what happened in class, or, I know Byron likes to write down, how many times I tapped him out, so he can keep track of that. But, a lot of times people just use it to, try to remember moves that their coach or professor taught in class that day. So, your notebook is going to be unique. It's going to be, individualized. But the key is it's going to help you get better at jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
You kind of mentioned that I do keep a notebook for pain or injuries, and I think it's something that that's the easiest type of a notebook to keep. because hopefully it's not all the time. Next time you get injured, write it down, right? Left elbow, I think it was an arm bar, and put the date on there. And then throw it in the drawer and leave it alone, or put it on your bookshelf and leave it alone. And the time you get injured again, look at it and write down, this time it was my right knee bothering me, or my neck popped during a heel hook that Gary had me in, and then put it away. And then maybe in 2 months or a year and a half, my right knee's bothering me again. I can't remember which one Gary heel hooked real hard. I go and look and, it's my right one. Maybe it's related, maybe it's not. Or maybe you'll notice you've developed problems only on one side, or maybe you want to show your doctor, hey, I've had 3 years of this elbow pain, and actually can have it documented here for you to look at. So I think that's the easiest way to journal is to journal your pain, because we all have some pain and discomfort in jiu-jitsu. And it's pretty lazy because you'll be thinking about it. And for me, when I'm hurt or injured, you get that feeling like it's never going to heal. It's never going to get better. And you look at your journal and you've gone over lots of stuff. And that's something I like to do, I guess. It's weird, I guess. But
yep. I know you've been talking about it. Like, you realize that it's always the same wrist that's hurting. And, so I know you've been running through that. And, the other thing I noticed why you like Notebook so much is because your favorite movie is The Notebook. Yeah. So I think that's another reason.
Oh, thanks, Gary. Those are the two best reasons to keep that journal, or that notebook, as you say. Another habit I have here is the habit of warming up. And this may not really be applicable in all jiu-jitsu settings. You come into class and you're going to go through like an organized setting, and you'll do like a warm-up, a technique, and then rolling or something like that. That's just the way it's going to be. But if you come into like open mat and everyone's already training and rolling, get in the habit of just getting a sweat going before you actually start rolling with somebody, or getting like a warm-up round in. And I'm really picky with my warm-up round people, but I really will find somebody who could actually do the 5 minutes or whatever, how long we're rolling at a moderate pace and not try to kill each other. And that can count as a warm-up round. Getting warmed up does reduce injuries. And I think it's a good habit to get into, not just to walk into the mat and start grappling right away. And long-term, warm-ups here and there, yeah, they might cost you a round of rolling, but they'll give you a lot more time on the mat as a healthy grappler.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good one. I can't believe I didn't have that in my list. I think that's very, very important, especially as I've got older. I have found out I get more injuries, and I used to just take a warm-up round, like you said, and now I realize I actually have to warm up, before the round even starts. I have to do, mobility exercises, get the heart rate up, get a little bit of a sweat going, then take a warm-up round, and then go into it. I found that works best for me, but that's a really good habit there, Byron. So good job.
Thank you, Gary. That was very kind of you to say.
Yeah.
And that concludes Gary's habits. Do you need me to email you the list, Gary?
No,
you sent them to me.
You just text me something. So,
no, I just was messing. I said a notebook for nutrition.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
No, because you said I texted you, so I actually did it.
Okay. Oh,
just mess with you.
Oh, okay. I was just trying to read what you just texted me. So, yeah. So, hey, I talk about this all the time, but having fun. I don't know if that's a habit, or we could say, but I personally think that if you're not having fun, is that a habit, Byron?
It could be.
Let's skip that one.
I think that's a fun one, Gary, to not skip over. Maybe you could think of it this way. Get in the habit of training with people that are fun. So when you're looking at two people who
Wait. I thought this was my thing. And now
I know, but it's a good habit to have. If I'm looking at Grumpy Gary or Happy Hal, I'm going to grapple with Happy Hal, and that's going to be more fun. So sorry, Gary. That's why I've been ducking you lately.
But Hal is shallow.
That's true. Dang it. I could think of a happy H name. But anyway, yeah, if you could maybe partner up with somebody, make that a habit, somebody who's going to be fun for you to partner up with, the more enjoyable you make your class, I think it could be, it's partly attitude, but you could do habits that make the class more enjoyable for you and make it more fun.
Yeah. That, I do think that you're going to stick with it more long term if you are having fun. if you aren't having fun, what the heck are you doing it for? But it's big who you hang out with. You can hang out like we were saying earlier with negative people, and the negative people are going to bring you down. People talking smack about other grapplers or other teams or this and that. I mean, what good does that do? You're wasting your time with negativity. And so let's go in there. Let's have fun. Let's learn. Let's smile. Even when somebody chokes us out or arm bars us or assists us in a partner assisted arm stretch and we have to tap, let's tell them good job. Let's smile, let's slap and fist bump and get right back on the mat and be smiling the whole time. And I just think having fun is a big key.
Yeah, getting that habit. I think it could become a habit. You could habitually do things that are fun and partner up people who are fun, and there you go. It becomes a habit. My next one here on the list is something that I don't know if Gary has it on his list because I didn't look at it very well, but it's actually Gary's middle name. It's Gary Extra Roll Hall here because rolling one extra roll at the end of class has huge dividends over the course of a year or a couple of years. It's amazing how much extra mat time this will give you, and usually the students who want to roll one extra one are pretty good. And so you really get quality extra roll. And you push yourself past the point of where most people are tired and you're having to kind of work technique. You have to work, that frustration. Your body may not be, fully able to do what you want it to do because it's tired. And, where I train regularly at Fox Fitness, I will typically, I would say more than half time, get one extra roll after we're done with class. And I'm there's several people that do that, but I'm definitely one of the few that does that. Gary always gets one extra roll after I'm done training. So when I'm done, I'm quitting, I'm packing my bags, I'm getting ready to go. I look over, Gary's rolling some more, and I think that he's just a good example of what one extra roll can give you. And sometimes Gary's extra roll is like 30 minutes long, but just stay on the mat a little bit longer. It's huge as far as the actual training you get that day.
Yeah, the owner at gyms hate me because I never want to leave. But when Byron's talking about an extra roll, he's not talking about getting an extra roll with your sandwich.
That's true.
So he's talking about an extra roll on the mat. So,
is that where the middle name coming from? Gary Extra Roll?
Yeah,
Okay.
That's where my middle name came from. Yeah, they say I got more rolls than Hostess.
It came from grade school, huh? When you earned that one.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, another one I think is great is, listen more than you talk. I do see a lot of people, you'll have your instructor, your professor showing moves. And, there's always that, a person or two said, would this work if so-and-so did this? And, they just listen to your professor. Do what your professor says. I always say that we have, 2 ears and 1 mouth, listen twice as much as we talk. Sometimes it seems like people just want to tell everybody what they know and just talk the game, talk the walk. But, it seems like that guy who's always, just listening, ask, and not to say don't ever talk, ask questions. Don't ever be afraid to ask questions. But, just listening, soaking up everything your instructor's telling you. It's a long process. What your instructor's showing you today, you may not totally get it today, but, your instructor has a path, has a curriculum that everything's going down. So, you need to learn what he's teaching this day before he starts teaching the final submission the next day or the even better submission the day after that. So, just listen, soak everything up, ask pertinent questions, and never be afraid to ask a question. And don't think, any question is too dumb. Those questions, that's the way you're going to learn, by asking questions. But you're also going to learn by listening and, don't talk when your instructor's teaching. It's a class. I mean, you may know everybody. You may be good friends with everybody, and you guys are going to go out for beers afterwards or go out and hang out at the bar afterwards or just have fun. But don't treat, your instructor is putting in that time. He's trying to teach you stuff and, be a good student and listen.
Yeah, I think I really like that, Gary. I didn't have that one down as a habit, but
What, did you say something?
I was just listening to you talk about listening. But, you talk about asking a question. I think you could boil that down to asking a question is really a listening thing. So you ask a question and then take it in with their answer. Like, listen for it. Don't just, so ask one question, listen twice as hard. And I think that the idea of asking a question is not really talking, is preparing somebody to give you feedback or give you an answer for something. So you better be listening when you ask a question. Otherwise, there's no point in even asking it. Maybe for the rest of the class, it'll help them out. But listening is a big thing. Anything you want to learn, and your instructors are trying to teach you. My habit here is get into the habit of having something to work on when you show up to class.
Good one.
And Gary and I are both advocates of this, and this is kind of the BJJ brick kind of a training method, is have something to focus on, and it could be any position or any technique. But if you're working triangle chokes, you better be pulling guard, and you better be setting up triangle chokes, or your waist. If you're working triangle chokes today, or this week, or this month, and you're desperately trying to get takedowns and pass guard all day long, you really didn't work on that at all. I think having a focused training for a while really helps out in developing those BJJ bricks that are really strong techniques that are building your foundation. So just have something to work on. Don't be afraid to ask training partners if you want to pair up with somebody and work with them. A lot of times they'll ask somebody, are you working on anything in particular? And 9 times out of 10 they say no. But they say, yeah, I'm working on my far side armbar from side control. I'm starting in side control. I'm starting in side control with an arm out of position. Like if you're working on something and it's time to roll, I'm happy to start in that position or near the submission to let you work on it. I love it when people are working on stuff. It's a great way to train. And Gary and I both do this. We go through phases of working on different things. And it makes jiu-jitsu more interesting because as you work on something, you kind of get that first hump is like, I understand it. And you go for a little while and you're like, I'm really pretty good at it. You go for a little while and you're like, I can hit anybody with this now that's in the class. And then you put it away and you work on something else for a little while. And you bring it back if you want to bring it back or get even better. But having an actual goal to work on has been something that has really helped me out a ton in jiu-jitsu, and making that a habit. Show up to class. Don't try to figure it out right then. Figure it out for the whole month. Watch some videos or talk to some people or partner up with somebody. Have something to work on.
Yeah, that's definitely a great one there, Byron. And I know early in my career, you kind of gave me that advice, and I think that made my game jump leaps and bounds. So I owe a lot to you there.
Yep, you owe me once a week to podcast, I guess.
Yeah, you make me show up for this. I really don't want to, as you can tell by my lack of preparedness. Another good one is tap, and what I mean by that is you are not going to learn as much if you're not on the mat. And the reason I say as much, we talked about it earlier, that if you're hurt, you can still come to class and watch and learn. But you're going to be going through withdrawals and, not being able to participate. But, you need to take care of yourself. Leave that ego at home. Don't be afraid to tap if you're in a position you can't get out. And I'm not saying, just tap every time somebody grabs something, because you still have to work your way out. There's a better chance of working out of a choke than there is, a fully caught heel hook. Like a fully caught heel hook, I have to be smart and realize that, I can't clear the legs. I can't, clear the knee lines. So I better tap. And I'm probably going to have a good training partner who is watching out for me too. But don't just, you need to tap. You need to tap, to prevent injury. If not even just on the tap part, but if you are injured, let's say you're out playing softball and you stepped in a hole while, chasing after a fly ball and, hurt your knee. When you're hurt, you're hurt. There's a difference between injury and a hurt. Can you get on the mat without further damaging yourself? If you can, and you can work around it, go ahead and do it. But if you can't work around it, don't keep getting on the mat, re-injuring yourself. It's going to keep you off the mat for a longer time. Our goal is to, get as much mat time as possible. That's going to lead to us getting better more quickly. So, we have to pay attention to our body. We have to tap to prevent injury. When we are injured, we have to take some time off and make sure it's going to heal properly. So we can start that cycle all over again.
Yeah, that's an important one as far as just safety goes. I was actually really not that long ago, had a training partner in an arm bar, fully locked out, totally controlled, and he's just not tapping. I'm looking at him like, what? And I didn't hip into it. He's stuck. And I kind of relaxed a little bit, and he's still fighting, and I kind of go back again, and I'm not, I know his arm's straight, his arm's not hyperextended, and he's just not, he's not wanting, he's wanting me to go the extra distance to actually hyperextend his arm a little bit. And so I wrist locked him. They complained about the wrist lock, but I think the risk is less likely to be injured in a week as far as that goes. But and I think I caught him by surprise with the armbar. He was, I don't know, it's frustrating to be a training partner, to get a submission, pretty much have it, and then somebody actually wants you to push them to the point where they could be taking actual damage. And yeah, Gary, tapping is a great thing to do. Keeps you safe. Yeah,
definitely. You want to stay safe.
Another habit I have here is get in the habit of helping somebody. And you could be a white belt, you could be a black belt, whatever, helping somebody. And a lot of you might be thinking, yeah, I've been going for 2 weeks. I'm not going to be able to help anybody. You see that new person walk in the door, they're asking about where the restroom is, whatever. Help them out. Introduce yourself. Be friendly. That's a great way to help somebody out. Just become, to them, they don't know that you're new. They don't know that that you feel like you're still outside the team a little bit. You haven't really become part of the family quite yet. But just by helping people, that's like a pretty basic way to help somebody, though. But help somebody out. If you have some knowledge that would help your teammate, share that. Be generous with your knowledge. Somebody obviously shared it with you in the past, and it's great that you could help that the next person, help them along as well. So just get in the habit of when you see something that could help somebody, to do that if you can, you have the time, and that goes for on and off the mat. Helping people, get in the habit. Be a type of person that helps people, and you'll rarely go without getting some help from others as well.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was thinking of. I was thinking more. I was calling it, basically, share the art.
Nice.
Yeah, and because that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to grow jiu-jitsu, and I know you're one of the biggest people that I know that is always trying to get new people to train. You're always asking.
I'm 5'11", 175 pounds, Gary. I'm pretty big.
Yeah, no, but you're really always you're a good ambassador for the sport. You're always very nice to the new people. You always take them under your wing. You're always trying to show them the art without destroying somebody. You're always. You're the friendly face. You're always smiling and going over to introduce yourself to the new person, and that goes a long way. You can think of the people when you first started that were nice to you, that took you under their wing, and like those people who did that to me, like I'll do anything possible for that person, to pay them back, and it's just I don't know, it's just it's just being a good person. And I remember back, I think you were being interviewed, and somebody asked, if you're go to your first jiu-jitsu class, what should you try to get out of that class? And I just remember your answer was make a friend. And that's you. That's the type of person you are. You'll try to make a friend, and by doing that, it's going to keep you in jiu-jitsu. And it's funny because when I heard that question asked, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, try to take one technique out and, remember that technique. I'm thinking along that way. And you just broke it down to the most simple of, human, nature. Make a friend. And that's going to keep you going. You're going to learn all those techniques if you keep going, but you're not going to keep going if you don't make a friend or as that article we were talking about, last week, the groomer needs the grappler needs to socialize, and making a friend, you're going to socialize.
Yep. Gary, you're too kind to me give me all this credit. I feel bad for all the mean stuff I've done and undoubtedly am going to do to you in the future. Yeah. Speaking of crazy stuff you're going to do to me in the future, I bet you got a mat tail waiting for me. Well, I actually have one more thing on my list here that I think is a kind of a neat one. It's mentally warm up and make it a routine. And I try to do this, but I'm not real good at remembering to try this. But this could be, if you look at, I think we've all watched the Olympic swimmers, and they kind of jump or whatever, and they kind of flap their arms like wings, and they get on the stands and they jump in and swim. That's actually like a thing to get their mind in the game with their bodies, kind of bring those together. So if you could make a little routine that could even be seconds long. It could be just, for me, I'm trying to just do like 3 jumps, 3, like not high jumps, just like, just kind of jump and loose my shoulders up and, a few inches off the ground, just 3 little jumps, and tell myself I'm ready to go. And this has been, when I've done it, it's helped, I think. And if you could just imagine 2 competitors on the mat, they're both tired. This is the finals. It's, they're in the 8th minute or whatever. What happens? You get off the mat a little bit, and the ref says, "Hey guys, get break, come back to the middle, we'll reposition." And they both crawl to the middle, and they're both exhausted. Could you imagine if one of those competitors got up, jumped a couple times, kind of rolled their shoulders, and was like, "Let's go"? And that's actually an advantage. Like it's not just it's not a technique. That person's like, "Oh man, he's bringing it." She's ready to go. I'm over here crawling to the middle of the mat, and they're jumping. And there's nobody resisting your jump. There's nobody on your shoulders. It's just a little jump. But it does help you get in your own game. Tell yourself I've got more energy, and your opponent sees that. They're like, man, this person's jumping up and down. I could barely crawl to the middle of the mat. It's a huge advantage. So if you can get into the habit of doing that even in training, kind of just like a little trigger, a little warm-up, if it's just kind of twisting your hips maybe or your shoulders at the same time, I like to try to jump a couple of jumps. Just say, here, I'm ready. I'm not that tired. I'm ready to go. And from a competitive perspective, I think it could really give the competitor or the opponent a little bit of a check. Like, am I ready to go here? I don't know. Obviously, this person across the mat is ready. I'm not that ready. So I like to try. I'm trying to do that, but I don't always do it. If I can make it more of a habit, I think it would be a good way to roll even better. Maybe at the first couple of rolls when I'm not quite warmed up. Definitely at the last couple of rolls when I'm telling myself I'm exhausted. Bring myself back into the game.
Yeah, definitely. That I was just thinking the scenario you brought out, that would definitely break me if I'm crawling back to the mat and I just see somebody jumping around, and here I am dead tired. I think I would be, mentally out of it at that point.
Yeah. Gary, any other habits for us?
I could only say the other habit, listen to your favorite podcast each and every week. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
One habit that I thought Gary mentioned, is taking notes. It's really important to take notes. And, you can keep a pain journal perhaps, Gary. I'm really shocked you didn't bring that one up.
I did, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Not a very funny joke, but I'm counting it as a joke. I did. I thought we had a discussion about it.
I was sitting there thinking, man, did I forget something?
So he said something about me sending him a text about a notebook. And so I actually just texted him about the notebook. And then we've kind of also texted back and forth a couple of times during the podcast. It's not really been helpful, but I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, he just tries to take me out of my game a little bit.
I try, man.
Yeah, try is the key word.
Got to. If I can't keep on your toes, got to keep on your back at least.
Yeah. Hey, that's a good one.
Yeah, I kind of like that one myself.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to thank the guests, Gary and Byron, for being on this week. They're, one of them is really good. The other guy's, not too much. I don't want to mention names, but the guy who's really good, name starts with a G, just so you know that.
Yep, he's a little bit older and a little bit wiser, is what they say.
Well, I think a lot wiser.
Significantly wiser. Speaking of significantly wiser, one of the things that's great about having an article every week is we get somebody else's input, and we share that on the podcast. Even that's great about interviews, articles that we don't write sometimes, although we've written a few. But this one is BJJ After 40, and it's Why You'll Quit Jiu-Jitsu, How to Handle These Pitfalls. And we got some, of course, people can quit for any number of reasons, but this article lists several of the very common reasons why people quit, and really how to just some help in actually trying to get you to not quit or get past the pitfall that you're facing.
Yeah, I like how they list the stay and quit, and for the quit side, I see it all the time. it's too hard. I suck at BJJ. I'm too old, too slow. It's expensive. Injuries. I've seen and heard every one of those.
Absolutely. These are very common. The first one that really is broken down, and I'm not going to be able to cover this entire thing, but injuries are a common one, especially injuries at the beginning of jiu-jitsu. Are you realizing that you're getting into a contact sport? If you thought this was going to be knitting, as Jake Fox says here in Wichita, this isn't knitting. This is a contact sport. You're going to get bumps and bruises.
Knitting, though. I've actually put the needle through my wrist, so it is knitting can get pretty dangerous.
Yeah, that's one of the worst knitting injuries that Gary and his knitting club have anyone sustained out of the whole group. Gary runs a knitting club with his work buddies.
Yeah, we have some time with it. We knit. The nice thing is Byron's making fun of it, but we knit sweaters for the impoverished people and give them away for free. So we do good stuff with it, even though Byron makes fun of it.
He knitted. Actually, they knitted me a really nice for Christmas, a knitted no-gi thong, and just haven't had the courage or the I don't want to say balls to wear that on the mat. But really nice, Gary.
Yeah. I know you use it as a headband most of the time.
Gross.
Yeah. But, back to the article, though, injuries. And, it is funny you were talking about injuries when you start jiu-jitsu. It's funny, I didn't have injuries for probably 5 years after I started. I started jiu-jitsu and really didn't have any injuries except for the time you popped my rib. But, besides that, I was pretty healthy. But like Jake Fox says, it's a contact sport. We know what we're getting into. I mean, it doesn't matter what sport you play. I can play basketball that people don't think is a contact sport, and I'm going to get hit with elbows. I'm going to, twist my ankle. I'm going to play softball. I'm going to throw my arm out. I'll tear my rotator cuff. I'll tweak an oblique. Just being active, you're going to get injuries. So it's just something you've got to be smart. And like we talked about a little bit earlier, when you are injured and you know that you can't be on the mat, don't get on the mat. But there's a lot of times you can get on the mat and keep training. You just have to have a good training partner and protect your weak area.
Yeah, I like the tweak and oblique. That's pretty good, Gary.
Tweak and oblique.
Get them up your guts or something.
Yep.
There's lots
Speaking of tweaking, a lot of times you're going to have to tweak your budget. Jiu-jitsu can, be expensive. But I like, he gives tips for saving money. Equipment. He talks about look for deals on gis to save money. Several sites offer discounted gis, and gis can be expensive. But if you look around, you can maybe find a cheap one. There's a lot of times you'll see people in your own city, selling one. I see them on Craigslist every now and then, or somebody in your gym just might have one they're selling. So that's a good way to save a little bit of money.
Yeah. Gis aren't. I don't think of a gi as being a major expense. If the money's tight, you need a gi if you're going to train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You could go no gi and not have to have a gi.
But still no gi, though. A lot of the people buy the, $75 rash guards and shorts. You can go buy yourself a dry fit shirt at Target or Kmart for a couple bucks. You won't look as good on the mat, but, you're not going to rip anybody's fingers apart.
But you'll look plenty good when you're, doing those sweet flying arm bars, though. But even if let's say you bought $100 pair of shorts and $100 rash guard, which I think are both overpriced, but those are one-time costs, and grappling shorts last forever. You could wear out a rash guard eventually, but grappling shorts, all of the ones I've had have just been super durable. And it's not, I think the expense comes from actual paying for tuition of classes and that sort of thing. And the expense of time could be a big one. But, not being able to afford class, I think is you'll spend more in class in a few months than you would on any sort of equipment. If you need a gi, do you need two gis? Two gis are nice. Especially if you train 2 days in a row, really giving a little bit of rotation in there. If you train one day and skip a day and train again, you can get away with one gi. That's all you really, anything else is just bonus. So
then you spend a little bit more money on laundry detergent.
That's true, but you got to wash those gis anyway.
Yeah. Yep. But, when he's talking about tuition challenges, there may be an opportunity to, work with the instructor, maybe, clean the mats. Let's say your instructor, needs help, putting a school together. Maybe you're an electrician, plumber, or just a handyman. You never know unless you ask. I'm sorry. So you can definitely look at that. See if there's opportunity there. But other ways, save money. Just look how much we can spend. You talked about it earlier, going out to eat. Let's say you don't go out to eat one day a week. For 4 weeks, there's $80. There's a good chance that could cover your tuition.
There you go. It's just priorities, really. And and I do like the idea if you really just can't afford it, talking with your instructor. Hopefully, you've built a relationship. If it's your first month, your first 2 months, and you're trying to say, hey man, I can't afford this. Is there anything I could do? You're probably going to say no. If you're really part of the team, you're a positive person, and they really like having you in the class. A lot of times they'll be able to find something for you to help out. You maybe teach a beginner's class or clean up the mats like Gary says, or, maintain the bathrooms, something to help you pay for your classes. And, you're not trying to get anything for free. You're trying to just find a different way other than money. And I think, having a stable career or job is a good way to make your jiu-jitsu career more stable as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's it's going to pay the bills.
This next one's a doozy. Go down the list. Conflict with a student or instructor. And never really had a whole lot of this in my own background. And Gary's a pretty easy guy to get along with as well. The only conflicts I've ever had is when I see people mistreating each other, and I have a problem with that. So I guess I had a few, but, never with the instructor. I've been fortunate to be around people who are doing their best. If it's the best or not, they're trying to do their best for people, and I always respect that a ton. You might think about switching schools, or talking to your instructor about, hey, this person is just giving socially, or something with another student is inappropriate. Don't just give up on that right away. A lot of times, a little bit of help from the instructor. A lot of times they've done this before, not to say the bad part of it, but maybe the instructor's dealt with two students that couldn't really get along that well, and they've been able to find a resolution. And most conflicts or most problems like this, at the root of them is typically will turn out to be a lack of quality communication.
Yeah, and I like the very last sentence, always take the high road, never bring the personal conflict on the mat.
Yeah, I think the problem with being on the mat is if I have a problem with Gary, let's just say this. I have a problem with Gary, which I don't.
What you call me?
And I can kick his butt on the mat, which I can't. But if both of these happen, every time I roll with Gary, I'm going to smash that guy. I got a problem with him. And that's not what we're doing here. That's not jiu-jitsu. What I need to say is, Gary, man, I don't like the way that this is being handled. I don't know what problem I can't even conceive a problem I would have with Gary.
You should challenge me to a duel.
Behind the gym. That way no blood will get on the mats. But actually talking to somebody or saying, or maybe, I don't like the way Gary's treating another person. I think, Gary, you roll too hard with Johnny over here. And I say, Gary, it really bothers me that you roll really hard with John, and he's really not that experienced, and I just don't know, I don't think that's really appropriate. And Gary comes back and says, John asked me to roll really hard with him. He thinks that he enjoys getting pushed, and he doesn't mind, that I'm kind of cross-facing him a lot. Problem solved. Yeah. Or maybe Gary says, I didn't realize I was rolling that hard with John. I didn't realize he was frustrated. And then, as a third party, which is me in this case, talking with Gary for John, and he's like, well, I'm not that type of person. I don't want to become the guy who's being a jerk to the new guy. I'll definitely back off a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I think that most conflicts, especially with people on the mat, because we all tend to get along pretty well, are going to do better if we talk about it and we don't actually just fight about it, which is actually kind of, I guess, could be a problem because we are grappling. If I got a problem with somebody who's not as good as me, I can smash them, but that doesn't fix it at all. No. I need to talk about it, and that fixes it. Otherwise, it just brings confusion as to, Gary's wondering, why is this guy just smashing me all the time? He's always a hard roll. That's kind of cool, I guess, but really I have a problem with him. That's not fixing anything.
No, yeah, definitely. And like you said, it's a lot of times just a lack of communication. Like you said, you see me rolling hard or somebody rolling hard with John, and you just without even asking any questions, you automatically just think that, that person's a bully, when in all reality, John likes it hard.
Well said, Gary. Going down the list here, the training is too mentally challenging. And yes, jiu-jitsu is tough physically and mentally. I think the hardest mental challenge of jiu-jitsu is the first one, and it's learning that you're not good at jiu-jitsu.
There you go. Yep.
And there's many other mental challenges that they'll be presented with, but that's, I think, the first and hardest hurdle to get past, is realizing, hey, I might be 220 pounds of muscle, but I'm not good at jiu-jitsu yet. I'm going to have to learn how to do this. And it's a skill-based sport. And, mentally being able to kind of put that in where it needs to be, it could be a pretty big thing.
Yeah, definitely. It can definitely be challenging, even when you get a belt. I remember when I got my blue belt, and I was like, oh man, now everybody's going to be gunning for me. And then you perceive that, I'm not blue belt material. I have that in my head, and it's just the mental challenges to, I don't want to make my instructor look bad, and really nobody cares. It's just, in your head, it's, just it's a mental sport too. Next one, lack of perceived progress. And this happens all the time, and I hear it constantly. And you think about the majority of the time, we're training with the same people day in and day out, and they're learning the same moves, day in and day out that I am learning. And you're going against training partners, and they know what you're coming to the table with, what they're coming to the table with, and you just don't see yourself progressing, or you're looking at some other people. And I did that when I first started, Byron. I've actually been on the mats a couple of weeks longer than you, but you progressed a lot faster when we first started. And I just remember thinking, man, how's Byron getting better and I'm not? And boy, there's something wrong with me. And, I was down, and, it's that lack of progress. But we can't compare ourselves to others. You learned a little bit quicker than me. You kind of figured it out a little bit quicker. But in all reality, now that I look back at it, you figured out one move, where I had no moves. You had you had that arm bar from the guard, and so I mean, both of us really didn't know what we were doing. But you had one more move than I did, and it was kind of like a brick for you at that time. You were very good at it. And, I didn't think I was progressing, but, that's what your instructor's for. And that's what teammates are for. I mean, we're not there just to, train and make everybody better. We're there for the mental and socialization point too. And if you see one of your training partners down and you talk to them and you find out that they don't think they're, progressing, don't forget to, give them kind, words all the time. Like, keep them motivated. Hey man, you're really doing good at this. Point out something they did really good during that day to make them feel better.
Yeah, make it be an actual thing.
Yeah, don't just make something up.
Yeah, that was make it be real.
That was a great triangle you had. Actually, I never did a triangle.
Make it be genuine.
Yeah,
but I guess hearing somebody say, "I feel like I'm not getting any better." That's like a warning sign that they're really frustrated with their jiu-jitsu, and maybe like you said, give them some positive feedback. It's okay to compliment somebody on their game, even if Gary's busting out of my armbar, he's going to tell me that was close a lot of times. Not every time, because every time it's not close. Yeah. But sometimes he's like, man, that was a nice setup as he's slipping out of it, or if I actually catch him. Those little compliments they really help me out a lot, Gary. Man, I really appreciate that, buddy.
Oh, awesome! Thank you.
That kind of wraps up the article there. We definitely did not cover all of it, and we'll put a link to it in the show notes, so you should go check it out. It's on the website, BJJ After 40 blog. And swing by and check out the entire article. It has a lot of stuff on there.
Yeah, definitely a great blog, so definitely visit it.
And I'm approaching 40.
Are you?
I don't know what that's like, Gary. Yeah, I'm approaching.
Oh, okay. What are you, 34?
By the time this airs, I'll be 38.
That ain't approaching.
I've been approaching 40 my whole life, Gary.
I wish I was approaching 40.
There you go. Yep. We're approaching the part of the show where Gary talks about his audio book. Gary, this week I'm going to throw an audiobook on you and see how you roll with it.
Oh, I'll
Gary,
roll with it, all right.
The title of your book that you have to make up a topic for is How to Butter Your Roll, Smooth Jiu-Jitsu. And I think this is a kind of a cool idea, Gary. You know, you're bridging two of your favorite things, rolling on the mat and getting a roll with butter on it during lunch.
Yeah, you know, it was just a very cool marketing term. We're really not talking about butter and rolls. We're talking about sparring on the jiu-jitsu mat. But, we crossed over, and I figured that way I'd probably get more people to buy the audiobook since I've actually never sold one. So figured maybe I'd get some people who are hungry and maybe get a couple of those audiobooks out there. But I threw the butter part in there. Byron, what do you think of when you think of butter besides the taste?
Mostly the taste,
yep,
but
like there, like
how smooth it is.
Yeah, smooth. And what else? What's the, like if you had butter on your shoes and you tried to walk on a floor, what might happen?
It's probably slippery. I'd imagine.
Yep, smooth and slippery. The double S's. So basically, what we're going to talk about is escapes. Like how many times like you got out from underneath and somebody's like, "Hey, man, you were like butter." So that's what it is. I mean, we're going to have, this is a legitimate audiobook, and we're going to talk about escapes and how to get out of different positions, and when we're done, everybody's going to say, man, that was smooth like butter. So that's our game plan. And most of the audiobooks and DVDs and everything focus on offense, and we're going to focus on defense and getting out of bad spots with butter.
Gary, is it like real butter or margarine or like a substitute made with olive oil, or what are we doing with, Gary?
We only use the real stuff. And, we're going to show you how to get out of moves, way to twist your elbows and your knees and hips to get out. But we're also going to show you some, underhand ways to get out by putting real butter on your arms. We'll tell you not to wear a long sleeve rash guard, wear short sleeve. But everything underneath this, from the sleeve on down, we're going to butter up.
Butter up the sleeve on down.
Yeah. So, we're going to butter up the ankles. We're going to butter up the knees. We're going to butter the back of the neck. We're going to put butter in the hair. And, a lot of times that works. And sometimes, what happens before you go to a tournament? Sometimes you forget to bring butter. But what's the good thing about most tournaments? They're held near movie theaters. So a lot of times I'll just go over and instead of getting a bucket of popcorn, I'll just ask him to fill a bucket up with butter. And, that way I have hot butter. And so, I just tell you a bunch of different ways to get butter. Some people even churn their own butter. What's the good thing about churning your own butter, Brian?
I have no idea where this is going, Gary.
Build your hand strength. What's important in jiu-jitsu and grappling? Hand strength, finger strength, wrist strength. So, we're going to learn to churn our own butter and, make ourselves stronger at the same time.
Wow. Gary, I'm really impressed with this audiobook here.
Thank you.
All I had to add, it's nothing compared to what you were doing, was...
Oh, nothing compares to what I was doing, Byron.
The bonus section of the audiobook here, Gary actually has some video footage of his opponent becoming disqualified because he started eating all the butter off Gary's arm and ankles and everything, and the ref thought it was not appropriate.
Yeah, the only thing that can go wrong is that. A lot of times, especially in the first match, especially if you just weigh in right before your match, a lot of times the guy is very hungry. He's, dehydrated, hungry, and, famished. And what happens is a lot of times when you get on top of that person, they're going to smell that butter, and they're going to start licking you. And that has happened numerous times, and at that point, it does get a little weird.
But I think, looking back, you do this on purpose, man. I think you like it.
Yeah. And what's the other part, though, Byron? What can you not forget after the match? We say it at the end of the show. Don't forget to shower.
Take a shower.
Yeah, I've seen this happen before.
I forgot.
One guy that I told this, to, he went to the movie theater and put butter all over his body. And, he won the tournament. Nobody could get a hold of him. He won the tournament easily. And afterwards, he went out to the local park to celebrate. They were going to have a picnic. So he sat down. They started barbecuing some hamburgers. He sat down on the grass. Guess what he sat on? He sat on an ant, farm, an ant mine. And they all, started eating butter off him. Ant hill, yeah. and he ended up with some nasty rashes.
Yeah, and as grapplers, we are no stranger to nasty rashes. Great, this is going to be a fun audiobook, I can tell. Really looking forward to that coming out.
Yep. Speaking of what else you're looking forward to is Patreon. Our Patreon supporters, they're the people who keep this show going. We could not have this show without you. The money you send to us each and every week, is very beneficial, and we really appreciate it. Check out our link to Patreon. If you do have the means, you can go in and support us, per show or per month, and, every little bit helps.
Yeah. Next week, guys, we have I don't know if this is a first, but it sure might be, interview with 2 people. Can you believe that, Gary?
Man, 2
Same
people.
time.
That could be, that is the first.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I interviewed 2 women. They're a couple, Hannah and Vinla, and they are currently living in Sweden, and they are phenomenal grapplers. Vinla is a world champion. The first time she stepped on the mat as a black belt at Worlds, she won it. Oh. She's training at small gyms. She's not in a room full of black belts. They're oftentimes the best people on the mats that are Hannah and Vinla. And it's just amazing to hear what they're doing. And you look at most world champions and most, high-level competitors, they're in rooms full of great other grapplers. You got these mega teams assembling these world champions, but Hannah and Vinla are doing stuff a little differently. They're definitely getting amazing results. They both have full-time jobs, and they're both really tearing it up on the mat. You'll see Vinla in ADCC this year as well. So really excited to bring you this interview next week.
Yeah, definitely check it out. And, like Byron said, most of the time, the high-level people are in rooms filled with a bunch of, high-level people, a bunch of killers. And that's why Byron and I are so bad, just because we train with each other. Speaking of, if you want to get bad at jiu-jitsu and you happen to be in the Midwest, coming through Wichita, Kansas, shoot us a line, and we'd love to train with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a lot of fun this summer training with our listeners, the ones that have stopped by anyway. And good times as always. One way to shoot us a line is on our social media channels. Facebook page is an easy way to get a hold of us. Email us at bjjbrick@gmail.com. And check out our YouTube channel. It's probably our second most popular method of getting information out. By far, we are a podcast. And in a far second, we are a YouTube channel. And then we have our good buddy Joe writing articles sometimes for us. And that has really helped keep the article stuff alive. But so you see us on our website, on YouTube. And definitely the podcast is the main thing. But a lot of fun to be had on YouTube. Well, Gary, that wraps up the show. I hope you consider changing a habit or 2 to get better jiu-jitsu as you listen to this. These tips and these habits really don't do anything for you unless you actually try them and implement them into your daily living. I want you to stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower to wash off the butter.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.